Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we are going to retrace the last known footsteps of a young man named Kyle FLEISCHMANN who disappeared, and he has now become one of Charlotte's most famous true crime cold cases.
This case has always been extremely interesting to me, as I am only a couple of years younger than Kyle is, and I remember very well when he first disappeared and the media that followed. Kyle sounds like the kind of person that I was at that age, interested in going out to bars and clubs, partying, and having an all-around good time with great friends. Almost 17 years have passed now since Kyle FLEISCHMANN went missing, and sadly no new leads have ever seemed to surface, at least to the public knowledge in that time. In 2007, Kyle FLEISCHMANN was 24 years old and seemed to have his whole life before him. He had just graduated from Elon University in 2006 and had landed a great job working as a healthcare recruiter for Maxim, which, side note, interestingly enough, was a company that I did some travel nursing shifts for way back in 2010. But in 2007, Kyle had just moved back to his hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina, where he bought a brand new car and a condo that he shared with a roommate. Things were looking bright for Kyle's future, that is, until the fall of 2007. Kyle's mother, Barbara, was newly diagnosed with cancer that fall, and he swore to her that he would be there to help her fight the cancer every step of the way. Barbara scheduled her first operation, and to lift her spirits, Kyle and his sister planned a night out on the town for her at a Dane Cook comedy show held at the Bobcat Arena on the night of November 8, 2007, which was a Thursday night. Kyle's best friend, Dan, as well as some other friends, attended the show with Kyle and his mom and sister. Afterwards, they all said farewell to Barbara and the sister, and Kyle, Dan, and the other friends decided to continue the night out at a pretty popular uptown nightclub called Buckhead Saloon. I remember Buckhead Saloon very well. It's been closed for years now, but back in 2007, it was a really trendy spot, and I went there for a fun night out with friends many times. Around midnight on the morning of Friday, November 9th, Kyle's friends were all ready to leave the bar as they had to go to work in the morning. Since they all planned to share a cab together to get home, they asked Kyle if he was ready to leave also. However, Kyle had just met and started dancing with a young lady in the bar, and he decided he wasn't ready to call it a night yet. He told his friends that he would just get a cab home later. The friends closed their bar tab and left sometime around 12:15 in the morning. They later reported that, while Kyle seemed to be having a great time and had had a few drinks, he was definitely not intoxicated or inebriated when they saw him last around 12:15 a.m. Between 1 o'clock and 2:15 a.m., Kyle was seen on security footage in the bar, dancing and chatting with the new woman he had just met. But around 2 o'clock a.m., he is seen in what appeared to be possibly a mild verbal altercation with several guys outside of the bar and with that woman. Interviews later revealed that the woman turned out to have a boyfriend who was possibly upset with Kyle. But things did not seem to escalate out of control, and no physical altercation ensued. At 2:20 a.m., Kyle was seen on security footage walking away from Buckhead Saloon alone. He had unknowingly left his wallet and coat behind at the bar. It was below freezing on this particular night in November, with the temperature somewhere around 30 degrees, but Kyle did not look to be cold in the CCTV footage of him walking up North College Street. This is the last time that Kyle was seen alive. It is presumed that Kyle next went to a popular late-night pizza place called Fuel Pizza. This restaurant is also closed now, but I remember eating here many nights after closing down a bar or club. There used to be multiple locations of Fuel Pizzas all around town, and all of them were really popular because they served that greasy pizza everyone craves when you've had a little too much to drink and you're just not ready to try to find a way home yet. Kyle was never captured on camera entering or leaving Fuel Pizza, but an employee who was working that night and who claims to have a photographic memory swears that he served Kyle 2 slices of Meat Lover's Everything Pizza. Since Kyle had left his wallet behind at Buckhead, he must have had cash on his person to pay for the pizza, unless maybe the restaurant chose to comp him the food. There's no security footage of Kyle inside Fuel Pizza either, so it's unclear what condition he was in or if he ate inside or outside. From 2:42 until 3:29 a.m., Kyle's phone made quite a few phone calls, and it's presumed that he was calling around looking for someone to come pick him up and give him a ride home. These pings were later used to try to trace Kyle's steps after he left Fuel Pizza. His first call was allegedly to a business that he had visited earlier in the night, which could have been him trying to call Buckhead Saloon about his missing coat and wallet. Then he called his own voicemail. Then he called his father 3 times, including on his father's work and business phones. Kyle's father was in Raleigh at the time on a work trip and was not local to help him with a ride anyway. Then Kyle called his sister, his friend Dan, and his roommate Bruce. None of the calls were answered, and Kyle did not leave voicemails on anyone's phones. By 4 o'clock a.m., Kyle's cell phone seems to be turned off, or most likely at this point, his phone battery died. The next morning, as friends and family started to wake up, they all began to realize that they had missed phone calls from Kyle, and they were unable to reach him when they tried to call him back. Dan contacted Kyle's family, who also had not been able to reach Kyle that morning, and they all began to fear the worst. Police were called immediately. Cell phone pings from Kyle's phone as he was calling his friends and family that night show that he walked a very unusual route after leaving the intersection where Buckhead Saloon and Fuel Pizza were located. His phone pinged many times, switching from a tower in downtown Charlotte to another tower off to the east side of Charlotte, before finally the phone died very close to that second tower. With no leads to go on, and no canine dog team employed at the time in Charlotte, CMPD were forced to call in independent canine expert teams to attempt to follow Kyle's route. The dogs tracked his scent in a route that matched the pin drops from the phone pings exactly, which confirmed to them that Kyle had been the person who was using his cell phone that night to walk east from downtown. Plotting his route on a map, his last phone ping confirmed that he had walked exactly 1.9 miles from the area of Buckhead Saloon and Fuel Pizza down major roads in the direction of a public greenway park called Cordelia Park.
Say hi to the camera.
Hi, camera. I just got my hair cut.
You look fantastic.
Well, I gotta wash it, but yeah.
He dropped me off to do this walk on foot, and I had reservations about finishing it. So we're going to finish this route in the Jeep.
Yes, I came to your rescue.
I remember what Charlotte was like in 2007, and Cordelia Park was located in what was a very visibly bad side of town called Villa Heights. And oddly, this is in the exact opposite direction of where Kyle's condo was located at the time. It's possible he was drunk and disoriented, and he just headed out in the wrong direction, but it's very weird to me that he would have ever even started walking in this direction, let alone walk almost 2 miles in this direction, because he would have known just by looking at his surroundings that this was not a good place to be alone in the middle of the night. Kyle's condo was less than 3 miles from Buckhead Saloon in the exact opposite direction. Cordelia Park was a known hotspot for drug dealing and was also associated with gang activity at the time. The last ping from Kyle's phone at 3:30 a.m. was right before the bridge that led over the creek and directly into the park, as if he was about to cross over into the park, which would have been a terrible decision to make. Whatever happened in the park that night remains a mystery to this day. There have been a few reports from eyewitnesses of strange activity that took place only a few blocks away from Cordelia Park on the night of November 9, 2007. A cab driver stated that he saw a man matching Kyle's description and without a coat walking around in that neighborhood at 3:30 in the morning. Another eyewitness, if he is to be believed, was a homeless man who was sleeping in Cordelia Park on the night of November 9th. He described Kyle accurately and states that he watched him get killed in Cordelia Park that night, but he stated he did not know who had committed the murder, how exactly Kyle was killed, and he stated that he had no idea what was done with Kyle's body. Another eyewitness was a woman who lived in a house nearby. She said she was sitting out on her porch at 3:30 in the morning when a red truck with 2 men in it pulled into a construction zone across the street from her house. What struck her then about the men was the way that they backed their truck into the spot where they parked, as if to hide whatever was in the bed of the truck. The construction zone was in the initial stages of digging to lay down pipeline for a brand new condo complex about to be built, and this eyewitness stated that she thought then that this would be a perfect place to hide a body. Cadaver dogs did come out to investigate the site, and other people who lived in the area reported being able to smell a terrible, strong odor coming from the site in the days after the disappearance, but no body was ever found. A few days later, dump trucks appeared on site to start removing dirt, and the locals reported that the smell allegedly disappeared. Today, there is an apartment complex built on the entire site known as the Edgeline Apartments. Kyle's family have tried all of these years to keep his memory alive in the public knowledge and have repeatedly attempted to find out what really happened to him. They hired a private investigator, but nothing concrete seems to have come from his investigations either. Kyle's family believes that he was a victim of a random crime, a situation in which he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's possible he was intoxicated and disoriented and walked into a bad neighborhood on accident, or perhaps he was targeted for a random robbery. His family have stated that the passing of time has eased the pain, but that they will always hope that one day they will know exactly what happened that night. The biggest questions I have after doing all of this research, other than the obvious question of what happened to Kyle, are about whether or not he had cash on him after he left the bar without his wallet. Did he flash large amounts of cash in downtown Charlotte in the middle of the night and perhaps attract the attention of someone who then followed him with the intention to rob him if the opportunity presented itself? If he did in fact go to Fuel Pizza and place an order, wouldn't he have realized then that he had left his wallet behind at the bar? Why didn't he just walk back and get it? And how did he pay for the pizza? Unless the restaurant just comped him a couple of slices of pizza, which wouldn't really surprise me that late at night, how did he pay for it? And if he had enough cash on him to pay for the pizza, why didn't he just use that money to get himself a cab ride home? Cabs in Charlotte have always been easy to come by, and they're not outrageously expensive. After midnight, cabs are lined up on the streets outside of bars and clubs, just waiting to take someone home who needs a ride. Surely he could have easily gotten a cab to take him anywhere if he had enough cash for a few slices of pizza. Why did he choose to walk instead, and why did he walk in the wrong direction for so long? I'm sure in nearly 2 miles he would have passed many obvious signs that he was going in the wrong direction and into a neighborhood where he would not be safe. Is it possible he was with other people, or maybe he was being forced to walk that way? I cannot imagine why he did not turn around at any point and walk back towards Uptown, where he would have been so much more safe. Charlotte has changed a lot in the 17 years since Kyle disappeared. Gentrification has completely changed the landscape of many of the neighborhoods, and while we still have our fair share of crime, it does seem to me like this city is a relatively safe place to live if you are careful, mindful, and street smart. In 2013, when I was looking around to buy my first house, I was confident enough in the neighborhood to go under contract on a house in Villa Heights. That's how much the area had changed then, just 6 years after Kyle disappeared. I've never forgotten the story of Kyle FLEISCHMANN and the impact it had on me when I was in my early 20s, doing many of the same things that he liked to do. I was going out to many of these same places regularly on nights out with my friends, and I am just fortunate that something like this never happened to me. It's sobering to think that it could just as easily have been me who is still missing, even to this day. In doing research for this video, I was dismayed to see how long it's been since any new news article has been published on this case. Even if there are no new developments, I don't want to see this case fall out of the public eye. It's important to me that we can learn what happened to Kyle and bring some sense of closure to his family and to the community. If you are interested to know more about this case, I have linked all of my sources below in the description box. Many of the YouTube videos discuss this case in much more minute detail than I have done in this video here, and they've included exact CCTV footage of the last known whereabouts of Kyle on the night that he disappeared. There is a lot more to be learned, and I hope that through public discourse, perhaps we can encourage someone who knows something about what happened to Kyle to come forward publicly and share.
Alright everybody, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it for you. I have been interested in this case ever since 2007 when it happened, because I am only a couple years younger than Kyle is, and I was going to many of the same types of bars and clubs, including Buckhead Saloon. I have lots of memories at Buckhead Saloon, and I've always felt like there's probably someone out there who does know what happened to Kyle. Perhaps this case could be solved. It's really disheartening that so many years have gone by without any new updates or any new leads, but his family deserves the closure. I think the city of Charlotte deserves to know what happened to this young man, and I would really like to see this case get solved someday. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. I will see you guys another day in another video. Thank you for watching.